Hello everybody and welcome back to our 4th Age Reunited Kingdom campaign. At the end of the last episode, we had a bit of success around Ithilien, taking Emin Arnin and pushing towards minus Ethl itself. But I've actually held off from the battle because I do see something in the north that I may want to take care of before I forget. Part of the challenge of playing the Reunited Kingdom is that you have just several theaters to worry about, and so one of the things that I may end up doing is forgetting to move certain armies, and I don't want to do that here. I do have an army of Adunabar heading down into the south. It looks like, unfortunately, they did not bother to take Fornost. So what I need to decide is what to do about that. Now, in this army, there are some hill trolls. I would love to just leave this army and let it die against the walls of rebels in Fornost, but I'm not sure that the AI is going to give me that option. What I could do, though, is move into the east and start tearing up their territory around Lastbridge. This is certainly, as we said at the last episode, some of their most valuable territory in terms of recruitment. So if we can take that from them early on in the campaign, I think that would be a great move. So to that end, I'd like to move pretty much everybody down through their territory, and we're just going to head east with these forces. It may be a good time in the next turn to recruit these rider mercenaries, and then we can do some damage around here. As we'll see, these settlements do not have any walls. Tardal and Etendal, completely unwalled. Lastbridge is the only one with any defenses in the settlement initially. So this should make a pretty short campaign if we can get in here with a large enough force. The other thing I wanted to remember before going into that larger battle over in Ithilien is the naval aspect. I've taken out some of my more beaten up fleets with 10 or fewer crew members, I guess, but we are going to fight with the rest of our fleet against this this fleet of Harad. It's got a Dromond and a couple of Southron ships of war, so we'll see how we do before doing some retraining. All right, balance of power bar looks pretty good. A crushing defeat? Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's extremely disappointing. What did I have for ships? I thought I had a good mix. We've got a Palaran, some New Maramar. The numbers were good. The balance of power bar was very encouraging. So this is a big disappointment. Well, let's get some other boats trained. Yeah, let's get another New Maramar here. And Pelargir, we can train pretty much everything, so let's go with an Alcarondas. That should change the balance of power a little bit. 112 soldiers, so this is a pretty robust ship. But that is very, very unfortunate. Okay, here's my another Palaran and a New Maramar. Well, they're probably going to be defeated over the next couple of turns because we don't have any movement points. Theoretically, we're going to try to get them back up into friendly territory again, but I'm not sure if that'll work. Again, I want to queue up these movement orders just so I don't forget. But I don't think there's any fleets yet with armies on them. Well, I take that back. Here's one. But it won't be able to get there for this turn. So if we can get some retraining going, let's actually queue up a ship in Dol Amroth as well. Palaran takes 2 seasons, though. I think we got to rely on these New Maramars just for something, and we can just keep a very close eye out for those enemy fleets. Meanwhile, let's try up this assault. The aim here, again, is to defeat this army in the field, and then also take out the reinforcements, which are the king of Adunabar, the chief rival here. If we can do that, march into the city without a siege, that would be a big advantage for us, and really allow us to close off a lot of the Ithilien front. So the terrain here is a little unusual. We've got a river flowing down, I guess, from the north here. And there's not a lot of, well, there is some terrain we can kind of take advantage of here. But I'm not sure that we'll really be able to use our Citadel catapults. We can set them up here, certainly, and deny the enemy an easy, safe position over here. But you can see where the arrow turns red. That's the limit of our range, so we certainly won't be able to bring these to bear. I don't believe these siege weapons can cross bridges, so they'll kind of be out of commission. Maybe we can move them up a little bit as we begin. to cross the river and see if the enemy has any men stationed nearby. So in terms of our forces, we've got here the Company of the Guard. Now, these are a unique unit. There are guards of the Citadel that we can train, but we'll never be able to train these Company of the Guard. They've got a bit better stats, and actually I'm looking at Spearmen. There we go, Company of the Guard. No shields, two-handed, I guess these are glaives, halberds, something along those lines. Pole arms, anyway. So good against riders, also effective against armor, so this is very important for a lot of the heavy troops we're going to face. But these are a unique unit, essentially. There's 3 companies, and we can retrain them in Minus Honor, but we'll never be able to train a completely new unit of them. So we do have to be a little bit conservative with them, make sure we don't lose a unit entirely.
Enemy have brought up more men.
Alright, so the enemy are setting up here. We do get 1 or 2 shots maybe on them with the catapults, which is great news. We're just going to rush everybody forward. My guess is that this army is going to sort of turn, and that may put their right flank closer towards our catapults. So we'll see if that occurs. I also want to rush over to the king here and hope to engage him before he runs up to the other troops here, some of which are some pretty decent cav. Let's see what we're hitting. Looks like it's just Grim Spears, but hey, anything we can take will be good. Alright, some good hits even on these Swords of the Shadow. Looks like they're moving forward, though, so we're going to have to watch. And it looks like we're not paying attention, so we're getting caught by the Adunabar nobles. Now, they do just outnumber us. So let's rush one of our Company of the Guard over. We're winning slightly, losing now. Our king did a little bit of fighting already, so not sure how this is going to go. Alright, we've got our spearmen. I think I want to run them over this way, along with our other guards of the Citadel and men-at-arms. Yeah, I fear we may lose our king in this fight. Alright, just keep him here long enough for us to grab the enemy king as well. If we can take him out, that would be great. Let's rush forward. We're still bombarding them, so that's good. We are engaging. Now let's maybe see if we can get out of here with our king. Well, he's stuck in, losing slightly. Love to keep some, like to keep some of my cavalry available for chasing down routers, assuming we get to that point. Alright, we are engaging some of their tougher cav, but let's run up to the main section here. We've suffered under some bombardment. They're shooting into their own engagements, so they may lose some of their own men. Lost quite a lot of those Company of the Guard already. Losing slightly. Let's charge in with the general. Let's get over here and over here to the Grim Spear. So everyone's engaged. There goes the enemy king. Wonderful news, and we can bring these spearmen up. Alright, we have to be careful for the catapults. And the Shadow Riders are a very tough unit as well. Fortunately, they're not using their bows or their catapult as effectively as they could right now. Here we've got some Shadow Guard. That's like a tougher version of Shadow Riders. But this is also a unique unit, so if it gets eliminated here, they're never getting this one back. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer to possibly hit these catapults with our own. Alright, Company of the Guard will charge in on those Shadow Guard. And it looks like we're causing some routing on their left, or our left. Unfortunately, if these Shadow Riders decide to withdraw from the battle, they're not going to be able to be caught. And so we will... Oh, good. Okay. We're shooting. Perfect. So we may lose our chance to take the city without a siege if that happens. Alright, let's bring our longbowmen up. They're not really doing anything at the moment. Maybe we can use them as melee troops. Alright, we're not doing terribly well. Yeah, let's rush them up. We can certainly send them against units like Dark Swords. Or even Grim Spears. And in fact, I think that in a way that might be the safest place for them. Rather than just standing there. Okay, Shadow Guard's got nowhere to run. That's excellent. When this unit's gone, the AI is going to suffer some morale penalties. This is a, as you can tell by the crown just above their banner, they're giving some morale bonuses currently. Alright, we're seeing some other cav charge in. This is the Shadow Riders. Hopefully we can turn around and take them out. Alright, let's hit the Grim Spears. Good. We're taking out some of these catapults. At least the crew, and that's going to slow them down. 6 Horsemen of the Shades left. Alright, send the King Spearmen over here. And we're still technically in range to hit these catapults. The AI is throwing in their dark bows as well. They do have a unit up here shooting at something, probably our own longbowmen. But they're also very likely hitting their own men, and we got a good shot on them there with a catapult. Down to just 7 men here with these catapults of the Shadow Cult, so doesn't look like they're going to be very effective. And our king is chasing down some Routers of Grim Spears. Do see a problem over here. Swords of the Shadow are winning easily on the left. So I think we may need to bring our king over and try to make some moves with regards to their general. Catapults are no longer an issue. There's only 4 of them left here. Looks like their catapults are actually destroyed by our bombardment. At least their general is losing heavily. Again, our Company of the Guard doing fairly well here, with most of their men still going strong in this unit. Down to 10 men in their Shadow Riders. I think I'll charge these dark bows to encourage them to clear out. That actually breaks them and their general as well.
Press forward so the spirit of his army is broken too.
See if we can catch him. If not, it's not that big of a problem. He's not a family member, so the fact that we've killed the enemy king means that we've already done a lot of the important work here. Now we do want to stay on some of these units, like those dark bows. It'd be good to catch all of them. And I think we should be able to. Meanwhile, let's charge in with our Company of the Guard in the backs of these Swords of the Shadow. Looks like they are turning around to face us. But as we're effective against armor, we should do fairly well against them. And indeed, we're looking at a rout here. And we've got our victory screen. Everybody in the enemy army is routing. Let's continue the battle. I do want to clear out pretty much everything that I can. We want to get up to around 85% enemies killed, so we can hopefully claim the city. And we've actually captured a battle standard. That was because we defeated the Shadow Guard unit. Any unit that has that crown appearing above the banner is sort of treated as having this battle standard. This is a mechanic that was, I think, in Vanilla Rome Total War, possibly Barbarian Invasion. And so what this means is they're going to be aggressively attacking Emin Arnon, because that's where we've taken it back. And it looks like, more importantly, Minas Ithil is open for the taking. Let's assault that and ride right into the city unopposed. Very, very nice. We're going to occupy this. We'll take a look. Now, Minas Ithil is interesting because, as you can see, there's no development options except for this, the Tower of the Moon. With a development time of 40 seasons and a cost of 50,000 Mirian, this is a significant investment that we'll have to wait a while before we can really take advantage of. But what this does is it essentially turns the settlement from what amounts to kind of a fort, basically, with very limited or almost zero building options, to a full-fledged city. The idea, as you can see from the ruins of Minas Ithil description here, is that this city was not really rebuilt at this point, or it certainly remains to see its full glory. So at any rate, what we would need to do to make the most use of it is to invest in the Tower of the Moon. We're not going to be doing that for a while. However, until then, we can retrain mercenaries here. So we'll definitely do that. I'll queue up an emissary, mostly as a guard against bribery for this settlement. And we'll see how this looks. Now, the population is very, very low. We'll lower the taxes there. So I'm not sure exactly what we're retraining here. This possibly just is going to give them some armor upgrades or something. But in any case, very nice to get both North and South Ithilien under our belt. Now, in terms of our remaining strategy in the region, a big thing we need to take is up here, Calenhad. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be looking at in terms of army size. It may be that there's another stack or close to it somewhere in the fog of war. So we do need to take this back. We'll also want to take the fortress of Andros, and then we'll be looking at pushing north towards this region to get into some of the passes into Mordor over here. However, one tricky issue about the terrain in this part of the world is that we are in danger of coming under siege in Minas Ithil from the east. And if that should happen, we won't be able to reinforce from the west because we can't get around the settlement, essentially. So it's a little odd, but what that means is we're going to, in a way, have an incentive to move over eastward to capture or at least threaten the Tower of Cirith Dûath to prevent this settlement from coming under siege and being eventually taken. On the other hand, if we're assaulted here, Minas Ithil is a very easy settlement to hold. It's not as well built up or intimidating to face as Minas Anor, but on the battle map, this is actually a very favorable for the defender. So this is one reason why it's good we didn't have to assault this. And yes, indeed, we're attacked by a fleet of the Empire of Harad right outside Dol Amroth. This does not have any men on the ships in terms of land troops, but it is a couple of tough boats. They'll certainly make short work of us, unfortunately. Clear defeat. Only one ship remaining. Well, at least we're the largest kingdom, so that's a feather in your cap. Otherwise, we're getting a lot of announcements here in terms of lordships. These are traits that we can take a look at here. This lordship is actually treated as an ancillary, and in a little while, he's going to get the trait that will make him attuned to his province and give some bonuses for things like recruitment and tax collection and building and so on. It seems we actually did have enough population to fully retrain these mercenary Gondorian swordsmen. I guess the population went down as soon as we queued it up to retrain. So that's good. We've got essentially a full unit in here, and that probably will be enough to hold it if we were to take these forces out and move them into Mordor, let's say. I'm noticing, though, that unfortunately we lost one of our Company of the Guard units. Not surprising, it was down quite to a low number over the course of the last battle there, but we'll never get that unit back. So we've got 2 almost full units of Company of the Guard remaining. That's pretty good. And it looks like the large force that I'd earlier seen of Adunabars around Calenhad and so on is moving northwest towards Rohan. So that could be an opportunity for us to move towards Calenhad or Kandros and retake either or both of those. That might have the effect of pulling this army back down and away from Rohan, which could be good for us. On the other hand, there's a cynical part of me that would be fine with Rohan losing Aldburg, at least temporarily. We don't necessarily want to see an extremely strong Rohan as our neighbor because they may get ideas about expanding into our territory. But at any rate, it's good that this army is at least moving away. Interestingly, this fleet was not attacked in the last season. Let's see where the enemy is. Okay, so there's an enemy fleet somewhere with troops ready to invade. So let's see if we can find that. Okay, it's over here. Here we go. Now this army would probably be pretty easy fodder for our Dol Amroth land forces. And so if they land, that's actually not too bad as far as I'm concerned. Let's in the meantime take our fleet this way. And we'll move them back towards Pelargir, I guess, for retraining. So I think I'll make my next move to be towards the Fortress of Kandros. We can actually attempt to take it this very turn with the catapults. We can, I believe, send them over here and assault more or less immediately. But before I do that, I do want to send my spy north to see what he can see. Okay, doesn't look like there's anything too threatening around here. So this could be a great time to make a move. Okay, can't quite reach it this turn. But that's all right. We'll take this army, bring them up here, and they will be able to meet up and attack next season. Even if this large army of Adunabar heads back immediately, they won't be able to reach Kandros in time. And I don't think they have anything else that's going to be too much of a problem for us. Now, we do also have a bit of a problem around Emin Arnin. The problem is we now share a border with Harandor. Harandor could and often does send forces north into Ithilien to try to take this settlement for themselves. So we will have to kind of keep an eye on things. So I think I'm going to be sending an emissary, if not a scout, south to see what's going on there. And just as I suspected, there's a Haradrian army, or an army of Harandor, rather, pointed north. So maybe they'll turn back, maybe they will keep going. It doesn't look very threatening. What I wanted to do with this army was head over to Cirith Duath and put that under pressure. But I may have to send it south now. That'll be a way to signal that I am not interested in letting Harandor just walk into my territory. And with any luck, maybe they'll move off. I think we will use the king, however, to put Cirith Duath under siege. And I'll just keep this place under siege for a while. I will go ahead and build some ladders and siege towers in case I want to assault. But this is kind of insurance. And we're going to need to wait to build up our forces before I feel really comfortable about taking this, because it's going to expose us to, in a lot of ways, the heartland of Adunabar's territory, the Nirn region, where they can train a lot of men fairly quickly. Otherwise, our economy is starting to feel the pressure. We've trained some men, trained some ships, and all those upkeep costs are starting to tell. Even before I queued up all of those things, we were losing a couple of hundred this turn. So fortunately, we have over 20,000 in the bank, and hopefully we'll be able to ride this out once some of these buildings get finished. Very good. Turning our attention back to the north, I can see that this army of Adunabars is besieging Fornost, so hopefully they'll waste some time dealing with that place. I think what I'd like to do then is move some of these forces together, generally towards the east, but I don't necessarily want to threaten them yet because I would actually like Adunabar to assault. If I started taking some of their settlements or even moving into their territory, I'm worried that this army may abandon the siege and not lose any men. So we're going to head just over here towards Amonsul, just a little bit. I'm checking the mercenaries frequently to see if there's any of the very cheap archer mercs available, and there are not yet, so we'll still hold off. And our fleet trapped in the south is hounded by another set of Corsair ships. It looks like the same Marauder and Dromond pair that attacked me last turn. So yeah, this doesn't look very good. Clear defeat there. I imagine we'll lose all of them. Actually, no, it looks like we've got one. And we're attacked, actually, by Harandor. Very interesting. So, it looks like we're going up against a unit of archers, a unit of Harandor footmen, which are very similar to our own kingdom militia. Some skirmishers, which are a unit type that we can't train, light javelin men. And they've got some Harandor armsmen, so good for them. However, we have some mariners, a couple of longbowmen, some Lasarnic axemen, as well as a family member, so I'm not too worried about this fight. What I am worried about is what it means for the future. Probably a lot of turns dealing with Harandor and Adunabar while we struggle to gain ground in either theater. All right, a fairly flat field to fight on, so we should have a pretty straightforward battle here. With our archer superiority, I think we'll be pretty good. And since they're sending out the Harandor skirmishers first, these guys don't even have shields. They've got practically no armor. We're going to basically cut them down pretty easily. But that's at least going to provide a screen for their tougher troops, the Harandor footmen and these very nice Harandor armsmen. So we may have a bit of a fight cut out for us, actually.
Swordsman. Swordsman. They're attacking us! Quick now! Spearman, swordsman. Axeman, swordsman.
All right, we've got our javelins throwing at the armsmen. That's good. We'll send these units against the Harandor footmen, and our axemen can take the armsmen, or at least hope to take them. Cut down a couple of them so far, and they're going to be skirmishing towards our longbows. However, archers of Harad are a pretty respectable archer unit, so hopefully they're not going to focus on my general too much.
Bodyguard. Longbowman.
And our white company are taking some losses to those javelins that are just on the other side of the melee. I'm really focusing on the archers of Harad as the more serious threat. Those javelin men are going to run out of javelins pretty soon. In fact, they're just standing there currently. So hopefully we can cut down the general and then move to support the melee here. White company are very good hybrid units, but there's only 18 of them here. So if we don't start... Okay, good. We broke this unit. Now we can hopefully focus on the rest.
Swordsman. Kill them. Longbowman.
Skirmishers are actually reloading, so they had held off, but we're sending the mariners after them, and I expect this will be a pretty quick resolution. They're routing pretty fast indeed. All right, I'm going to take these longbowmen off of skirmish so we can let our axemen finally catch up to these ridiculous Harandor armsmen who've just been charging after our longbows this entire time. We're going to see how well our longbows stand up in melee and how well these Lasarnic axemen do from the back. They're utterly tired, but our own men are not doing too well, although I've got to say I'm impressed with the stamina of our longbowmen and Lasarnic axemen. I would have thought they would be just as tired as these armsmen. Of course, the armsmen are winning easily currently. Looks like the enemy general is withdrawing or in flight. Yeah, these armsmen may get the better of us, unfortunately.
Swordsman, swordsman, longbowman, bodyguard, swordsman.
And actually, tables turned. We have... And actually, with the withdrawal of the enemy general, it seems like these armsmen have lost their nerve. Surprisingly, our men managed to hold out in that fight, and so we're cutting them down. No cav in this army means we're not going to be doing a lot in terms of cleaning up the battle, but we should be able to catch those armsmen and then get to the victory screen. So a clear victory with, again, really not good results on our end, although we should have eliminated this force. The problem is there's probably another one on the way, and we don't have a lot to answer it here. It may be time to consider moving our Dol Amroth army into this theater, or maybe doing some landings in Harandor. Okay, at the beginning of this next turn, it looks like we are slated to actually see some profits, so that's good. Probably losing some of those forces due to war is actually helping our economy. And at Dunabar, it looks like they are constructing siege equipment, so possibly next turn, maybe a little sooner, or a little later rather, we'll see them assault Fornost. That's what I've been waiting for. It's nice to know, though, that we're about one turn away from attacking Tardal if we wanted to. So let's position our men just a little bit closer, right on the edge of our territory there. And we'll be in a good position to attack it as soon as Fornost falls. And right off Dol Amroth, I can see the fleet of Harad with a very small raiding force. The units that I'm most worried about here are the Cav, especially these Scarlet Shields. Very strong unit. And they've got some also very strong horsemen of the Harnan. So we're going to have our work cut out for us there. I think we should be just fine with these forces. And we can also grab some mercenaries just before the fight.
Fleet ready. Aye, Captain. Aye, Captain.
Looks like we are blockaded by a single small fleet, just 2 ships of Harandors in Pelargir. So that is actually hurting our trade. Let's get our Numeramars over. I think we should be okay. Harandor can't typically train very good fleets, but this large army is a bit of a problem. Yeah, just some Southron ships of war. Fairly weak in terms of stats and small crew size. All right, clear victory. Managed to chase them off. And we do have our Alcarandas available. Let's see. This is a Corsair Dromond. I'm not sure that we should tackle it just yet. We don't have any other fleets in the area that are capable of joining and doing some damage. So we'll hold off. Maybe we'll combine these units and do a bit of retraining before sending them out. Looks like the Adunabar army headed toward Aldburg has changed its mind or is stuck in some other way. I think, though, we have a good opportunity here to attack the fort of Kandros, so let's combine those troops and do that. We can assault immediately thanks to the catapults. Just 91 men inside, a unit of Grim Spears. Let's do it. So we're going to be attacking the gates here. When you're attacking walls with your catapults, you want to keep them off flaming ammo. I guess I'll shut off fire at will as well. So we'll try to batter down the gates. Hopefully we can get through the gates in addition to destroying the towers. And we can just run through and deal with a single unit of Grim Spears that's inside. Well, we did make a hole in the walls here so we can at least get through. I don't know if we're going to actually destroy these towers or the gateway, however. I think I may have underestimated the strength of these walls a little bit. Oh, there they go. Great. The gatehouse is destroyed, so we can send our infantry forward a little more safely. I'm going to use just our Kingdom Militia and King Swordsmen. No need to get the archers or the cavalry involved, I don't think.
Horsemen, stand and fight! Swordsmen, spearmen,
Not coming under any fire yet, so that's very good news. And it looks like we're about to be attacked here. Let's charge in. We are going to be under fire from this tower. However, there may be some friendly fire going on as well. Maybe what I can do is get these Kingdom Militia to take that tower for us and then circle around to the back. Can also risk, I think, bringing the general closer a little bit, right under the protection of this wall to help the morale.
bodyguard.
All right, we're close to capturing the tower here. Soon as this guy gets where he needs to be. There we go. We got it.
Our soldiers have done well this day. The walls are taken.
I don't think any other towers can reach us. There's the enemy general. Looks like one of our guys with a ballista in the tower got him. We will have to defeat this force entirely, however, because it's within the plaza. You can see the way the fort is designed. Basically, anything that's not right on the walls or in this little area here is part of the central square. We are getting some friendly fire from this tower, unfortunately. Nothing we can do about that. All right, and that's all of them. We've taken the tower, only lost about 30 men, so that's quite good. And all of those men that we lost can be retrained. With that, I think we'll occupy. There's not much sense in exterminating a fort. The population is so low anyway. But this is close enough to, the point where we might eventually be able to train something out of here, to retrain some militia, for example. We've already got garrison farming built, which is helping with the population growth. We could go to the next level. In these forts, you can build up to eventually get a sort of garrison population. But I don't really see the need, especially with our economy kind of hurting. So I think we'll spend the money elsewhere. And elsewhere could be Bree. Bree is a settlement that flies under the radar in some ways. It seems like an economy settlement, and it certainly is. It's got the pipeweed resource, which is very valuable. But the other thing is, it is one of the few places that can be used to train Rangers of the North. And in fact, it already has Ranger holds pre-built. This is a specialization building that is just given here. Of course, it's a nod to Aragorn hanging out in Bree back in the day. So this enables training of Rangers of the North, but it does require a second-tier barracks. That's this mustering fields, which we could build right now. So I think, although it is going to dip into our finances, it'd be nice to have another unit of archers running around, archer swordsmen who can kind of serve double duty. So we'll do that. We'll also want to restore those walls and rebuild the hole we made in them. But I think in the meantime, I'll risk taking out these units. I don't want to be trapped here at the Fortress of Kandros. And I can bring some of these guys at any rate back to minus honor for retraining. And since we're here, maybe some King's Longbowmen would be good to add to the mix. One thing, though, that I did overlook is Emin Arnon. We're going to have to spend some money on Homeland Dominion. This is going to cost us 5,000, but it is going to make us a bit of cash. Quite a lot, actually. 1,900 per turn. So that's going to get us a significant income boost. We will have to do some scouting around here to make sure that we can hold it in the presence of Harandor. So we'll keep an emissary around just in case.
Forward! Move depleted, sir.
We're approached by an emissary of Dunland, and they want a ceasefire. So this is no doubt because we actually don't share a border with Dunland. And, you know, I don't have any problem with you people. I would like some cash. Let's see if they'll give us 10,000. And they will. So we've got a ceasefire with Dunland. Now we could go for trade. There's really no reason to because, again, we don't share a border. There's no ports that Dunland starts with. But that's a nice investment in our economy. Yes, and we've got the good old accept or we will attack with the demand, please do not attack from Harandor. You know what? Give me some cash. If you're going to be silly, let's see if you'll give me $5,000 for the privilege of whatever that is. Nope. So maybe we'll go a little lower. Maybe 1,000? I guess they see this as an equal opportunity. Let's see. The AI, sometimes you see people claiming that this is essentially a non-aggression pact. In my experience, the AI does not hold to it very well, but let's accept. And let's see if they don't attack us like the very next turn or two. Yep, and they put us under a blockade inland here. It's definitely a Harandor fleet, so they broke their agreement as soon as they made it. But now they've got a war with Rohan as well. That may put them under some diplomatic pressure to come to terms at some point. And let's see, we've got our ceasefire with Dunland. That just makes us a bit of cash. If Dunland does expand, and actually we do share a border with them now, they are likely to break that ceasefire, I'm thinking. Especially since they're doing a fairly good job at holding off Rohan. So we may have to deal with them sooner rather than later. I do have an army force right up here, and I think I'd like to send them up here next to the settlement. We could build a watchtower at some point potentially, although we're a little too close to the city to do it right here. So we may need some scouts in the area. I know there's a settlement right up here that is initially held by rebels, and Dunland has taken that. So kind of an ominous start to their expansion towards us. We don't have anything too great here. A couple of archers, a couple of cav, some kingdom militia. So if they send a big army our way, we may be in a lot of trouble. That said, what we could start doing is taking the money that they offered us and building stuff with it. Let's see if this guy is an attuned governor yet. He's not. He is the Lord of Morthond Vale. So I think I'll wait a turn or two, and then we'll get building here, because this is the settlement where we can build more Blackroot Vale bowmen just at the 2nd tier. So we'll wait for him to get his attuned governor trait, which will give some more bonuses to construction costs, and then we'll start upgrading that settlement. And actually, we have 2 fleets of Harad landing raiding parties on the coast. We've got this army that we just saw, and we've got another one here. Looks like some Corsairs and some other stuff. So this is a little unfortunate. I think we will have to send our men to attack and deal with these armies in turn. Probably the one next to Dol Amroth represents the greatest threat. Let's get these men in position. We may as well go ahead and recruit mercenary Gondorian swordsmen here. And attacking the army, we do get the reinforcements from the city. I think this is a unit of bowmen, which will be very nice. And again, they've got some cav, some skirmishers, and some swords of Harad. Let's chase them away, shall we? Ah, yes, and the general here is commanding a unit of Knights of Dol Amroth. So I'm considerably less worried than I was initially. Really like the barding on these horses, and the unit itself is just really unique. Also some Dol Amroth men-at-arms, very nice looking as well. So we've got a lot of power in this army, and I think we should do okay. We've got some mariners here. We'll set them to fire at will. Mercenaries out front where I like them. King's Spearmen in the center, although I think I'll probably move them to the flank. We'll see. It might be good to have them guarding the bowmen. And some King's Swordsmen on the left. Let's do something like this. We'll get the cavalry all together in a fairly decent group. And we'll march toward the enemy.
Reinforcements have arrived. This is hopeful news indeed.
One of the great things about playing in Rome Total War mod is that a lot of the continuity between the campaign map and the battle map is preserved in the older game. You can see the fleet just out here. These are probably some Corsair ships off the coast prowling in the waters. Off in the distance there, you can see the 2 towers of the Ithilien, the Elf Haven, I believe that's what that is. And Dol Amroth itself, the city, is probably off there on the headland looking over the water. So very nice stuff, getting to see the campaign map represented even in the battle map. Since this army has no long-ranged forces, it's going to be basically up to us to get the first few shots in. They're sending their Swords of Harad forward. Very annoying unit to deal with, but we've got mariners of our own that have javelins. And if I run in with the King's Swordsmen, with the mercenaries actually, then we might be in a good position to take care of them before they do too much damage. Here come the cavalry. Hit those scarlet shields. All right. Charging in with the Horsemen of the Harden. This is a dangerous unit, especially on the charge. Let's get the Spearmen in. The Mariners in. We haven't broken these Swords of Harad, although they are evenly matched. It looks like we've routed those Scarlet Shields, which is wonderful. And we should be able to just push through and deal with the rest of these forces. They're very light, fairly weak. These men-at-arms are winning slightly. I think I'm going to pull them out for another charge. Cutting down their general here. Longbowmen hitting the skirmishers from even this distance. And we'll pull through. There goes the enemy captain. And Swords of Harad are routing. Excellent. As you can see, we lost quite a few horsemen in that engagement, as well as a lot of mercenary Gondorian swordsmen. Fighting Swords of Harad, you're always going to take a lot of losses. They've got a couple of javelins, and those are going to do a lot of damage. We're going to catch these plainsman skirmishers with our Dol Amroth men-at-arms. Looks like that was a pretty effective little charge. They're wavering and routing. Very satisfying to mow down these lightly armed skirmisher types. That army of Harad is eliminated, and we are free to turn and take on this other host. However, I think we'll need to do some retraining, refitting in Dol Amroth, so we'll get our army inside here and see what we can do. We can actually retrain the governor here. Let's check out his age. He's middle-aged, so it's probably still worth it to upgrade him in terms of armor or weapons or whatever that would be. And then we'll get these men trained, and I think it might be good to grab another unit of something. Possibly some Bowmen of Gondor. Or maybe just some Kingdom Militia. That'll take just a single turn to train. And would be useful against some of the lighter troops, just bringing some more bodies into the field. That, though, is making a dent in our economy with everything else. Well, what can you do? Well, one thing we can do is punish Harandor with our fleet at Pelargir, which now consists of an Alcarondas, Palaran, and Numeramar. I think we should make short work of these guys, but you never know. 33 men, just a single ship of war. Yes, a clear victory. Not too much damage done to our own fleets. And that probably saved us a little bit of cash, all things considered. So let's see what's going on with Harandor. We've got an emissary down here. We can send him further south to find some of these other settlements. And I can see they've got an army that's kind of pointed to the southeast, which means maybe they're going to be going towards Harad. Very often you see Harandor attempting to conquer in this region. So what I'd like to do is see if we can actually get a ceasefire with Harad. We can focus on one Southron faction at a time, and I'd love to grab some of this territory anyway. So I think that'll be the option for the next coming turns. Now we are under siege in Caer Andros. We did get to retrain a bunch of our men, so let's bring them to deal with that threat if we can get through here. And it looks like they want to stay and fight. This looks like a fairly interesting force, actually. They've got some Royal Longbowmen and some Royal Spearmen, as well as Adunabar Swordsmen. All of these units are actually Ways of the West units for Adunabar. These are units that they start off with in every campaign, kind of a reflection that the Civil War is not a strictly good guys versus bad guys thing. There are some in Adunabar who follow the Ways of the West, but of course most of them follow the cult. Their bodyguard, though, is the typical Adunabar nobles, so I think with our catapults we should be in a pretty good position to deal with that. But I think that will have to wait for the next episode, folks. Thank you very much for joining me in this one, and I hope you'll stick around to see what comes next in our Reunited Kingdom campaign. I will see you then.